The June 12th meeting of the Ways and Means Subcommittee will now come to order. Will all please rise and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Roll call of the members of the Ways and Means Subcommittee. Councilor Gino is absent. Councilor McKenna. Here. Councilor Morbido.
Here.
Here. Councilor Patch is absent. Councilor Zambuto is absent. Council President Guanasso. Here. And Chairman Rizzo.
Here.
Here. Quorum is present.
Thank you very much. This will be our second session of reviewing the FY20 budget. As we have done historically in the past, we invite department heads up to review their budget with members of the City Council so that at a final discussion, at a final meeting, the City Council will deliberate, and as I have said before, we cannot add to the budget, we can only cut. If there are any proposed cuts, those cuts will be brought forward within the committee. We'll take a vote, and then the results of those votes will be presented to the City Council so that the entire City Council can vote on the budget. So with that being said, we're calling up department heads, and I'll take them in order as they appear on our agenda. So the first on the agenda is the Mayor's Office, and for the Council's edification, if you could turn to page 6 in section 2, we can start from there.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Robert Mara, Mayor Arrigo's Chief of Staff, to speak on behalf of the Mayor's budget. You all have it in front of you. It is essentially a replication of last year's budget. Probably the major change in it is the addition of a community liaison position, which is a part-time position that is staffed by one person who is working with a variety, pretty much with other departments and special projects dealing mostly with environmental issues in the city, cleanup issues. She's on a litter campaign initiative dealing with state agencies and DPW in trying to maintain clean areas in the streets and public parks and things of that nature. Other than that, the staffing remains the same, and the budget is essentially a replication of last year's. Oh, and there is one other change. You'll see contracted services, which is essentially the funding involved with the 311 program. That has been taken out of the Mayor's Office budget and placed instead in the 311 budget under Ruben Cantor's jurisdiction.
Do any councilors have any questions? No questions. Bob, I was wondering, I'd like to welcome Councilor Zambuto. He just walked in. Councilor, we're on page 6, reviewing the Mayor's budget. If you could walk us through on page 6 itself, some of the accomplishments and goals and objectives, that would be helpful for me.
You're referring to the FY19 accomplishments, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I think most of those are fairly self-explanatory, that the mayor's office, as you know, works with every department in the city every single day. And so that first objective, working collaboratively with department heads, is what led ultimately to the creation of this submitted balanced budget department-wide. So that's an overall ongoing effort in the mayor's office. The second, of course, the second item on that list is the trash barrel program. You will be hearing more about that at Monday's Legislative Affairs Subcommittee hearing. The first phase of that was the distribution last October of some 16,000 the blue trash barrels that are now being used throughout the city. Those will eventually become the required barrels that people will use in the city. That's not part of the city ordinance now. And as I said, Monday, I believe it's on for Legislative Affairs Committee Monday, when your number will get into further details about that. But that was one of the real major accomplishments during the past fiscal year. The owner-occupied real estate tax exemption for qualified seniors. I would defer to Auditor Viscay for more details on that, other than I know that it was implemented this past year. Advances in the water and sewer department included additional staff. It included new equipment. The changes in the water and sewer departments separating the general DPW from water and sewer has really helped the city address a lot of the flooding issues that were found in most of the low-lying areas of the city, but also just in general neighborhoods. The chair of the director of water and sewer will be the first to tell you that they are clearing out drains and areas of the city that have not been touched in probably 20 years or more. And there is a tangible benefit from that, because areas, people who end up with flooding from even light rains are experiencing now that the drains are actually doing what they're supposed to do. The parking operation, starting last it might have been about July, when the city started to implement the new smart meters. There's been a complete overhaul in the parking department. That included the appointment of a new director, complete overhaul in the collection process, the oversight of the collection process, the installation of so-called smart meters in the Broadway Business District and the Shirley Ave Business District. One of the real benefits of those is that people can now pay with credit card if they don't have the coins on them. The collection proceedings have really solidified and sealed up any of the gaps that might have existed in emptying those parking meters. It also, the software that's associated with them also conducts almost like a real-time audit, so that when the money is counted, it's matching up with what the meters software is telling us should be in the meters. We're projecting, based on collections thus far, that the 2019 collections will probably be the highest in the city's history, somewhere in the neighborhood of $150,000. And most of that is attributable to just all of these measures, but particularly the smart meters. They work, and again, the collection proceedings are much tighter than they had been. School Building Authority, as you folks all know, that the city did receive its initial approval for that, and the feasibility study now that is associated with the construction of a new school is ongoing. $9 million in free cash certified, second highest in the city's history, second only to the year before when it was $11 million. And the Next Stop Revere Master Plan has had 4, I think, public meetings thus far that have been very well attended across the city, where people are giving their insights, their commentary, and ultimately that will all lead to the, and that whole process is being done in cooperation and conjunction with Metropolitan Area Planning Council. That process, which I believe each of you have attended at least one of them, because I think I've seen you there, that process will eventually lead to the creation of a master plan to help guide the city going forward in development and in all of the things that a city depends on to move forward. It's significant in that it's the first master plan that's been attempted here in the city in somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 years. So those were the listed FY19 accomplishments.
Okay. All right. That being said, any councilors have any further questions for Bob Mara? I don't think there's any other questions right now pertaining to your, pertaining to the mayor's office right now. Pretty straightforward. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Councilors.
Okay, next on the agenda will be the fire department, page 105.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Hi, Chief.
Chief Wright,
Yep.
400 Broadway, Revere Fire Department.
Okay. Everybody is on page 105. Chief, it's up to you. I'll let you either walk us through from page 105 through 106 and 107, or if you want to go right to the numbers, I'm fine with that also. Maybe you can give us a...
Sure. I mean, as you can see from last year's accomplishments, the purchase of the new ladder truck, that was a big event for the fire department, replacing that 2004 Pierce ladder truck. As you know, we completed the Point of Pines feasibility study, and we did some reorganization of our staff and added a new civilian admin in our office, which has been very helpful. We were successful in our application for a grant for 4 firefighters, and we really redoubled our training efforts heavily. As you can see from the list of items, we've been going at training very hard. We see with the areas that we really need to push hard and get up to speed at, and we've been really working hard at the training end. Page 106. It continues on with the training. One of the grants we got for emergency vehicle operators to drive the apparatus, and our technical and swiftwater rescue disciplines. For fiscal year 2020 goals, we're waiting to hear. We're looking for a grant for 4 additional firefighters. I have not heard yet, but I believe we'll probably be hopefully successful in that grant application. And again, we're trying to get our staffing up to speed in the hopes that the city's going to move forward with the demo and rebuilding of the new Point of Pines Fire Station, so we can better prepare for that station coming online sometime in the next couple of years. And those are some of the main focuses. Also, the Central Fire Station, we have some repairs and improvements we'd like to make. Our rear stairwell is kind of in poor condition, and our HVAC and heating system, we'd like to make some improvements to that. And follow through the last item on number 4 on page 107. The last goal would be to basically follow through with our capital improvement plan and move forward with the purchase of some more apparatus and staff vehicles. And that's pretty much what we have, what we're trying to accomplish for this year. Moving along into the budget items. You know, most of our budget, as you know, is contractual and salary items. If you have any questions on those or any of the other items, I'd be glad to try to answer them for you.
Any councilors have any questions for Chief Bright? Council Morbido.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I'm looking at other expenses, now that's related to Metro District fees, right? Was there an increase in our fees this year, for next year?
I think if I remember correctly, that line item, some expenses do go up under other expenses, dues, professional association, stuff like that, Metro Fire Chiefs Association. There are some new things that have come online, the Mystic Valley Emergency Planning Group, things of that nature. And I think we put something in for, I think under that also would fall under some of the other expenses that, quite frankly, we've been just taken out of pocket when we have nowhere else to take it out of, the type of, reimbursable expenses.
Thank you. That's what I assumed. Just wanted to get clarification. Also, under line item 587-200, personal equipment, I noticed in previous years there was always spending there. Was that negotiated in the contract? Is that why there is nothing for the
what
next?
page is that? I know what you mean. I'm just
108?
108? Yeah, the personal equipment line? Yes, I believe that's the one that we're kind of, it's moved into the capital improvement fund, and we're going to address it through the capital improvement that we've been working on.
Yeah, just as a note, Council, we've, in trying to build up and facilitate the capital improvement plan, we've taken a lot of the capital stuff out of the operating budgets, and we try to present it in the capital plan, and you'll get a revised capital plan for the Monday's meeting and for your budget book. So some of these charges that we were funding in the operating budget, we'd like to fund as part of the capital plan if they're capital items.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Also, I notice, in addition to those questions, I have one more in regards to computer services. Will that be an ongoing fee every year? Will that be recommended every year?
Yeah, it will be, because we have, I think there's a GovConnect bill that comes in every year, and that will cover that. That was something we never had a couple of years ago. So we were we had nowhere to take that money out for our membership, email services, stuff like that.
So that will be a yearly occurrence?
Computer expenses,
okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, we've also created a new line for that. So in some cases in the past, we've been noticing that expenses have been paid for, not necessarily in the correct line. If there's no budget for that, for computer services, it might be buried into other fees and services. So we're just trying to make it clearer so that we can charge the correct accounts for the types of services that the fire department and all the other departments need, and then they can, it's easier to navigate and narrow down on what the expenses were for particular object code numbers on the ledger.
It's an obvious line item, and it's very transparent, so.
Council Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had opportunity to visit the Central Fire last week, and I saw the new piece that we have in there. Chief, come up and brag about that. That's absolutely state-of-the-art, and Frankie, your head of your maintenance on equipment of the fire truck, he gave
I give all the credit to Frank Barry and Louis Ivine. Those two firefighters really, they're very seasoned veterans. They've been on those trucks for decades. They know their stuff, and they really took a lot of time and effort to come up with the specs for that truck. We have people coming from everywhere to come to look at that truck.
That is
See what
one
we've got.
beautiful
Yeah.
piece of equipment, and something we should all be proud of. The mayor's office, the city council, you and your staff, that's a great piece. Once that gets out in service, and people are going to say, wow, that is really sharp. But the way he told me about, even the way the axes are placed in a certain bed where they don't move around anymore, that's amazing. That's great.
We've tried to learn from things that maybe haven't worked out too well over the years and try to improve upon them. And it is a beautiful truck, and we're very thankful, that the city bought it for us, and they should be proud.
Well,
It's a
the
great
citizens
addition.
should be
They
proud
will.
of it too when they see it in place, but I think you should do a little bragging too, because it's a testimony to you for helping get that, and it's something the fire department has always been a leader in going out there and doing what they have to do, and they quietly do their business. They don't go out and look for glamour and accolades. So, Chief, well done. I just want to publicly thank you for that.
Any other councilors have any questions? Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This might be kind of a little outside the budget, but we've got the feasibility study of the new Pines Fire Station. If you know, do you anticipate a time frame on a proposal to actually bond a fire station at that site? What's your hope, I guess? I should have phrased it that way. Well, I can't hear you. State-of-the-art equipment we got here. Wait, no, wait till she gets it working. We're not going to get it working? I'll leave it up to Ashley. I guess we're on hold.
Some technical difficulties.
I thought we upgraded this system.
No, it's for when folks use the council chamber and set the table back down on the wires.
Oh,
That's what it's
I get it.
for, the wires. Just speak directly into this.
Okay, Counselor. So the question was, how long will it take for that fire station?
Yeah, if you were to put a time frame together, and maybe it's just your wish list, when do you think a proposal to actually bond that fire station for that site would come before us? I'm not so much concerned with how long it takes to build. I know that aspect of it. I'm trying to see.
Monday night. That's what I'd say. I'm ready.
I know you're ready, but do you anticipate that happening?
I hope so. I hope it does. I would not like to see it delayed, I would not like to see it kicked over for after the summer recess or sometime. I think it's something that there's a serious need for, and we should expedite it.
So you're thinking within the next few months?
As far as,
As far as a proposal to bond this fire station before us?
it may be coming as soon as Monday.
Oh, as soon as this Monday?
I believe so. Again,
Council, I believe that there is a bond order that will be submitted for council's vote on Monday, so that might go into committee, obviously, but I believe for the agenda for Monday's meeting, you'll have a bond order on there for the fire station.
Well, that's great. It's a lot quicker than I'd anticipated. Well, that answers my question, then. I guess we're going to see some stuff soon. Great. Thank you, Chief. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor.
Mr. Chairman.
Any other councilors have any questions? No questions? I just have a couple questions. One I could probably save for subcommittee, but, I don't have the, right now, it looks like we have 106 firefighters,
Yes, this year we've been.
and you're hoping to get that grant
The
for
grant,
4 more?
yes.
When will you know if we have that grant?
Everything is kind of back backlogged on the grants right now with the situation in Washington. I really don't know.
Okay.
It should have already been out.
Okay. One concern, and let me just say for the record, for starters, I mean, of course, we've been talking about opening up that Pines Fire Station since I first became a member of the city council, I think back in 2000. So, I mean, it's a long-standing conversation that we're having. I don't think there's a member of the city council who doesn't want to see it open. My question to you is, and I'll ask it again, well, maybe I won't ask it again if you answer it now, but, you know, we haven't seen the number of firefighters go up dramatically since I can remember. I believe there were 100 as of FY16. I think there were 100 at that point.
98, we budgeted for 98.
98, okay, and right now we're at, where are we at?
106.
106. Now, how many firefighters do you need to staff a station? Is it like, I've heard different numbers, so I don't know. Yeah.
We should be staffing all our apparatus with 4 firefighters, pumps and ladder trucks. We currently usually operate with 3, most of the time. So it would be a minimum of 3 firefighters per apparatus.
Per apparatus. So how many, I guess my question would be, how many new firefighters or how many additional firefighters? We're going to open up another station.
Right.
Are you saying we
So
only
if you
need
added
3?
another company,
Yep.
that would be 16 firefighters, a minimum of 12. But I would say
Okay.
the city should go for 16 firefighters. That would cover vacation periods, sick time, injuries, stuff of that nature.
So anywhere between 12 and 16?
Yes.
Okay. Because I think it would be fair to say we probably need to factor that into any decision we make, right? I mean, would that?
At least the way I've been approaching this, I think our manpower is, complement is closer to where it should be right now. If we could get up to 110 to 112 firefighters, we're pretty good to man, the current configuration of the fire department. So if you add, we reopen the Engine 2 station, add another 12 to 16 to that 110, and there's your number. That's what we'll probably need to run the fire department. And that's a couple of years down the road. We'll be looking for those types of numbers.
Okay.
As the city grows out, these buildings come online, and
Right, well, I think that's the reason, certainly one of the reasons that I am a strong advocate for it. I mean, it was needed several years ago, as far as I'm concerned, because of the traffic and barriers to getting service down there that have just naturally existed for so many years. But now, with all these new apartment buildings, the thousands of units, thousands more proposed, I don't think it's a luxury anymore. I think it's an absolute necessity.
these storms have really have my attention too. Not just the difficulty getting there and the slowly, but the literally the ocean coming into the neighborhoods is something that I want to try to get ahead of a little bit as fire chief.
Sure.
And again, if this were to go, the station's funded and we're going in that direction, I would look to probably again get grants to help lighten the impact of that for the city, and I think
Sure.
I think we'd have a pretty good chance at it. We've gotten pretty much every grant we've applied for, so.
Great. One more question I have, and I don't know whether this would fall under medical supplies or not, but my question, it's on page 112. My question was going to be pertaining to Narcan, and unfortunately, despite efforts at a federal, state, and local level, opioids continue to wreak havoc on communities and neighborhoods and families. And we don't get a report from you or the police department, anyone else, as to how many victims of overdose have been serviced by Narcan. Are you seeing those numbers go up?
We could provide you with that easily, Mr. Chairman. We could try to get some numbers.
But it's when you're before the,
I don't have actual numbers prepared for you, but
Okay.
I have not, it does not appear to be slowing down to me. Every day I get the overdose reports, there's a lot of activity. It does not seem to be going anywhere to me or going away.
Okay, and
anytime soon.
so with Narcan, I'm just curious, in this $5,000, because I was told back, this was several years ago, that they was charging a lot more money for Narcan. It was costing a lot more money. Is that, is that the case, or, I'm not sure, like, how you or the police department or anyone else, I mean, I know right now private citizens can purchase Narcan and carry it with them, but,
I think the city's been successful in getting the Narcan supplied through a grant.
okay.
And then now we have the SUDI office manage that grant. Originally it was the fire department, but now it's down to the SUDI office. So, that covers Narcan that police and fire pretty much use.
Okay. Okay, yeah, you know what? That would be helpful if I could get the overdose records, you don't have to do it right this second, but, I mean, I'd just be curious to know how we're doing. I know the Department of Public Health has records that talk about the unfortunate case of fatalities, but, we don't, sometimes just to gauge on how we're doing as a community, sometimes those numbers are, might be helpful, so.
I think they just applied for another grant recently, so that data should be available. I should be able to get that pretty quickly.
All right.
You should have some numbers on that.
Well, I don't have any questions regarding the actual numbers or anything like that. I just had those questions about staffing and about Narcan and the opioid crisis that we still seem to be in. So, with that, unless councilors have any further questions for the chief, I will just thank you for appearing here. I know it's every year, once a year, but it's something that we have to do by statute. We get the budget every year. We've got to review it. And in fairness to the city council and you, the department heads, we want to, have this dialogue back and forth so we know where we're at financially with each department, because that's really the one thing, probably the primary thing the city council has with regard to oversight, is oversight pertaining to the budget, this once-a-year process. So I appreciate you taking the time out.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right,
Mr.
Chief.
Chairman.
All right, thank you, Chief. We'll move on now to the police department, page 95.
Good afternoon, Council. Mr. Chairman, first of all, I'd like to thank the Auditor's Office for all their assistance with the budget, especially Assunta. And I'd like to thank the Council for the appropriations in the capital improvement budget. That was a big help for the department. We ordered a new prisoner transport vehicle and 2 police cars. So thank you.
Okay.
The budget's pretty straightforward. It's all salaries. A couple of the expense accounts we adjusted. You'll see in training, one training went down and one training went up. The training in the expense account side went down. That's money to hire instructors. And the training and the salary sides for overtime and backfill for training. So we just shifted the money. The gas and oil right now, with the city adds gas and oil down, we've been supplying the whole city with gasoline. We left the amount the same, and it's in the other departments' budgets, and we've been doing transfers when needed from one department back to the police department for the gas and oil. It's all tracked, computerized, so we know exactly how much each department's using. The department's budgeted for 107. We're at about 104. 2 will be going to the academy in the fall. We're really at 106, but one office is out on long-term sickness, and another office is out on long-term military leave. Hopefully be back in the fall. So, and one officer just went out. He's waiting for disability pension. So the plan is to be at full complement by the spring. And that's really about it. Some of the accomplishments, all the councils have been calling. Through the Safe Cities grant, we installed 10 well, 6 are up and 4 are coming in. Speed radar signs that you see on Malden Street, Sergeant Street. There's one going on Revere Street, there's one going down in Beachmont, and we hope to do another 10 in this upcoming year. Since I became chief, we sent over 15 officers to the police academy. We're hoping to have we have a full-time community service division. We still haven't hired the community engagement officer. One person we were going to hire accepted another job somewhere else, and then we had a second person in mind. It hasn't come to fruition yet. So my hope will be to fill that position in this upcoming year, and hopefully that will coincide with the opening of the new substation on Shirley Ave, and that person will work out of there. So there's a lot going on, and there's only so many hours in the day. Another great thing that's going to be happening is we're partnering with the senior center, and we're going to have a senior citizens police academy. So there's a lot of excitement about that, and that should be a great program at a minimal cost, because we'll be using the senior center. So that's going to be really something I'm looking forward to. We still do the Citizens Police Academy. We postponed it till the fall. It was too hard to get people enrolled over the summer, so we're going to have a regular Citizens Police Academy in the fall. And we also have a junior Citizens Police Academy that we did with a grant last year. We're waiting to hear from the DA's office. Hopefully we'll hear this week. But either way, we're going to go forward with the junior academy in conjunction with the PAL League, whether we get the grant or not. Still working on accreditation. It's a huge process. Going through every policy and procedure in the department. It's about 30% complete, maybe 40%. Captain Mangino's been working on it full time, but it's a very cumbersome process. Every single policy and procedure needs to be rewritten, reviewed, and then put out to the troops. So that's our goal, to get certified and then down the road to become accredited. It's long overdue. We've enhanced school safety. We've done some more training, school shooter scenarios. We'll be doing another one coming up this year as part of the School Safety Initiative grant. We got money for training, some security at the schools, and new laptops in all the cruisers so we can have real-time viewing if there's an incident in the school. We were only one of 4 communities to get the grant from the Department of Justice. We got over almost $400,000, so that was a great accomplishment. And we're working towards completing that. It's a long process. The school department's handling some of the issues with the door security. We already ordered the laptops. We'll be setting up the training after this budget for more school shooter training. So there's a lot going on. So if the council has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Any councilors have any questions? No one over here? Councilor Zambudo? I just have one question, maybe more, but so we're budgeting right now for 106 police officers?
107, 104, and 3 from the school department.
104 and 3.
That comes to 107. We have 3 school resource officers. And I'm hoping down the road to add a 4th one.
Okay, 107, okay. So it's up 1 from last year?
Yes.
Okay.
The plan is if we get opening, it's very hard to get seats in the academy. It's a long process. And I spoke to the mayor, and if we do have the ability to get some more seats, we might look and see where the budget's at and hire a couple of more. We'll check where we stand with the salary account, different accounts. And if we have a surplus, we can always hire another officer.
And where do we stand on equipment, cruisers? Are we funding that routinely through the capital planning budget, or?
Well, we buy cruisers with tow money, but, you know, it's not a lot. So with the capital improvement money, we got caught up. So we're actually in real good shape with the fleet. we got a brand-new K-9 vehicle from UASI funds, Homeland Security money, and we'll be getting a SWAT transport van transport vehicle from that money. And today we got delivery of a brand-new boat, $120,000 boat. We had to send it back to have the bottom painted, but it arrived. That was with Homeland Security money. So we've done well with equipment, training, with everything, actually. The council's been very good. The mayor was very fair in the budget, so I have no complaints.
Well, I see under new equipment, new cruises, 100,000 requested, and none of it was approved. So I'm just
That's
wondering why it was requested, the 100,000.
Because we decided to use the capital improvement funds. So we got the cruisers just with other money,
Yeah, basically,
instead of with the budget.
I'm sorry, Chief. Again, just kind of trying to revamp the way we budgeted here. We're trying to take all the capital money, and as opposed to putting it in the operating budget, we're funding that through the capital budget. When the capital budget's approved and the appropriations are done by the council, then we move that money into the account so that they can buy it. As a matter of fact, we just, I believe we just signed purchase orders to buy 2 new police cruisers and prisoner transportation vehicles. So the chief and I have been working pretty closely to make sure that the fleet is up to tact, and you'll see in the capital plan that we have money earmarked every year for replacement of cruisers, et cetera.
Okay. Any other councilors have any questions? Thank you very much, Chief. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, everybody. Mr. Chairman, I'm here to do the rec, too. Do you want to take that up next?
Let's take up the rec, page 113.
This year, I was the treasurer, well, I'm presently the treasurer of the rec. We have the board of directors. It consists of Revere and Winthrop. I took over the treasurer's role, so I worked very closely with the director of the rec to work on this budget. And we went over every line item, and I think it's in line. And we got some more E911 money, so the assessment went down a little. And you'll see in the police budget, not in the rec budget, the calls for service on page. Ruben had it added in for the metrics, which is good because it relates to the rec. So on page, I think it's page 5, you'll see the calls for service. And that's all it has to do with the rec.
Page 5 of what?
Excuse me?
Page 5 of what?
In the, I don't have the same pages. In the police budget, it's after the goals and accomplishments, the next page. The end of the goals and accomplishments. And the police.
It'll be page 97, Council.
Sorry about that. The rec's still been a work in progress, even though it's a separate entity. It's in our building, and I get inundated with rec problems every day. We're trying to address them. They seem to have the fire side of it down pretty pat, but the police side's far more complicated, and there's still a lot of training going on. There's been a lot of turnover, and there's a lot of training involved. When you hire someone, it takes months and months to get them up to speed. I did ask for next year that they break out on the overtime, break training out as a separate line item, because that'll lower the overtime down. A lot of that overtime was for training and backfill. The rest is pretty straightforward. We did some more technology improvements. So that's really almost all done. So some of those costs should go down. So that's where we're at. The goal is to bring in Chelsea and Massport and the MWRA. It's all in the works. It's a work in progress, working with the state. They have a lot of money to build out a rec. And one of the thoughts is to move the rec into the McKinley School and use the state money to do the build out for half the building. And the city can use the other half of the building. So that's moving along. It takes time. We just did a mock budget for Chelsea. How much would it cost them if they joined the rec? I believe we're going to be getting the 911 calls from Massport will be going to our rec. So that'll increase the E911 state money, and it'll be a minimal increase in the staffing. So as we build out the rec, our costs should go down, because the E911 contribution will go up, or the other people that join the rec will be paying their share. And the staffing won't go up as much as it needed to operate it at the beginning. There'll be only minimal staffing added for the extra calls for service.
Council President Guanasso.
Mr. Chairman, I noticed that our calls are three times the amount of Winthrop.
Absolutely.
So now looking to add Chelsea into the mix,
Right.
I would think that Chelsea's going to be greater than Revere calls.
No, I think we're similar. But the
You think you're
staffing would
similar?
be based on the calls for service. But you'll see Winthrop's is so low, there's a little overlap there.
Yeah.
They can do Winthrop and maybe the Massport 911 calls. That's why you won't need a person for each, maybe one and a half.
I was going to say, it won't add to our time, it'll decrease our time, you think?
No. Every position's staffed.
Beautiful,
People handle the Revere calls, the Winthrop calls,
okay.
separate radio dispatch or call.
This is just when needed.
Right.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Councilors? Councilor Zambudo?
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess my question's, where does the service stand in the rec center? Are you comfortable with where it is now? Is it more efficient?
It's somewhat more efficient. There's still some more training to do on the police side. And then the other thing I'm going to try to work on is coordinating some of these 311 calls with the rec. Like, we'll get a lot of stuff that's through email in the night, that if it went right to the rec directly, we could address it right then and there. But that's a goal for the future. But 311 has been a great tool. It's great for the residents. We get a lot of abandoned vehicles, illegally parked cars, and there's a record of it, and we address it, we get back to the people. So I just hope to try to incorporate that down the road, combine maybe 311 and a rec. But we got to get the rec fully up to speed, and then we can go to the next. We'll make 311 more instant.
So I guess my next question is, what's the anticipated time frame for the rec to be up to where
Well,
it should be?
it's operating. We have some hiccups.
No, I understand it's operating, but, it sounds to me like it's somewhere in the 60 or 70%.
I'd say 80.
80. Well, that's good. 80 is good. And you think with the extra training, you're going to get to 100% someday?
Right. The calls are getting answered. It's minor hiccups, internal, situations. But when people call, the police and the fire are coming.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. The only question I have, just centers around, going from the FY18, FY19, and now into the FY20 budget. I know that we're getting reimbursed partly by Winthrop, right? And they're paying their proportionate share? Is that in addition to this right here? Is this Revere's portion that what we're budgeting?
No, this
But
is the
it's-
whole budget. You'll see on the top, Revere's assessment and Winthrop's assessment.
I'm sorry, I think he may be looking at a different document. The number you see for the assessment is just Revere's share.
Council, I'll give you the assessments. The Winthrop's assessment's $496,414, and Revere's assessment's $1,583,000, I believe. And E911 money's $850,000. So the E911 money went up $150,000, and the two assessments went down a little bit, and we hope to lower that as we go forward.
So
But it's all based on calls for service.
how long can we count on that E911 money for?
Forever.
That's indefinite? Okay.
That's part of your cell phone bill, dedicated revenue stream.
Okay.
And then the state is trying to consolidate more and more at these central dispatch centers.
Because I think the goal of this initially, and bringing other communities, other organizations in, is absolutely, has always been, as far as I'm concerned, has always been the way to go, because it's going to lower our costs over time. There'll be more participation, and that will, I believe, even up our E911 money, correct? Is that how our share goes down?
Right.
Okay.
Well, the E911 money is based on calls for service.
Right, but so if
Total
we have
cost for
more
service.
people, if we have more people in the rec, then
Right, but
that's gonna,
if we increase the rec and bring others in, we won't need the same level of staffing as we needed to build it out in the beginning. We not only have to add 1 or 2 people to take on Chelsea.
right, so you've got the
instead four,
economies of
so
scale that you can
so they'll
benefit
share in the
from.
cost.
Right. Okay, that's all I have. Any other questions pertaining to the rec center? Okay, if there's no further questions, Chief, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And Council, I just again want to emphasize the importance that 311 has been, especially for the police department and people's complaints. They're all documented. I get to see them all. I get every single email, just so I know what's going on, abandoned cars, speeding cars, kids hanging out, whatever it might be, it comes directly to me, Sergeant Janino. So it's a fast turnaround on most of the complaints. Okay,
Great, thank you. Okay, next is City Auditor, page 26.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. You'll see that Hello, sorry about that, everybody. Good afternoon. You'll see that the auditing budget has not changed much at all. We have the same staffing level budgeted. We do have a little bit of a decrease in our auditing fees due to some allocation of the cost between our water and sewer department, our retirement, and et cetera. But for the most part, we have a level service budget. As far as how fiscal year 19 accomplishments, we were able to close the books and complete the city audit on a timely basis. Happy to say that we were the recipient of both the Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget Award for the budget presentation, as well as the Comprehensive Annual Financial Statements, which is our annual audit. So there's only probably a dozen or so communities in the Commonwealth that achieve both of those. So it's a pretty good accomplishment for the city with regard to that organization, which is basically the one organization that really looks at this stuff nationwide and assesses it and recommends improvements, et cetera. So I'm really happy about that. We created some new processes in our department where we do quarterly reconciliations of all our special revenue funds, trying to give departments a little one-on-one on how they should be keeping their own records on their grants and their special revenue accounts, and making sure, I say it's their checkbook and we're the bank statement. We make sure we reconcile every month so that all the expenses are appropriated from the right areas and all the revenues are posted to the right account. So we got free cash certified at $6.2 million last year, and sewer enterprise funds certified at over $5.7 million, which was very nice and helped stabilize our water and sewer rates and put some of that money into our stabilization funds, et cetera. We have new procedures for ensuring the weekly payroll is signed off by each department and verified. All the hours, sick, vacation, personal time is all now verified by department heads before we sign off the warrant for the process on the payroll. And we've also formalized our departmental revolving funds, which is in accordance to the Municipal Modernization Act of 2016. Our revolving funds are now ordained, and I believe Monday at Ways and Means, we will talk about the 2020 budgets for those departmental revolving funds. As far as for goals and objectives, we're trying to formalize written policies and procedures for all of our activities. We're in the process of doing that. We're trying to do more with our Munis accounting system, maybe decentralizing some of our entry of bills payable. I believe we're also doing an upgrade to our Munis accounting system next year, so some of the timing of that is subject to those upgrades. One of the goals I have for next year is to do a citywide fraud assessment, try to go department to department, identify the area where there could be areas that there could be fraud, and try to tighten up some of the procedures we have, put some belts and suspenders on stuff, just make sure that everybody is cognizant of any areas where there could be any nefarious activities, and just basically trying to do the best job we could with the resources we have. And I'd like to thank my staff. We do have basically two departments within our department, the city auditor and the budget department. They're really two functions within our department, and with a staff of 4 and myself being 5, it's we get quite a lot done with a few people. So I'd just like to thank my staff, Kevin Asunta and Miguel and Brenda. So happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Any councilors have questions? Council Guanasso.
You still on Unix system? That's the old system.
No, it's Munis, M-U-N-I-S. That's
M-U-N-I-S.
Munis is it's a software package through
Software.
Tyler Technology. So a lot of our purchase order, requisition, payroll, general ledger, it's all through the.
And they automatically go to, once you input it,
Yeah, we key in, all the bills that come to the city. We pay the bills for the entire city. So my staff actually physically keys every bill in to the Munis system, which generates the accounts payable warrant every week. And then payroll up in the treasurer's office uses that same system to verify all the timesheets for all the departments, enters that information in, which produces payroll checks. So a lot of our financial operations are using the
does it
Munis
right,
system.
and it saves on personnel. It's a great thing.
Everyone's getting paid, so I don't have any
Great thing,
complaints.
yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other councilors? Have any questions for the auditor? Councilor Zambudo?
No real questions. I just want to congratulate the auditor on the awards. It's good stuff.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Councilor, I'm sorry, Mr. Viskey, I just have a couple questions, and I've only been back as a member of the city council now for a couple of years since leaving office. So my question centers around, if you could turn to section V, page 3.
Oh,
You need your budget book?
yeah, sure.
It would be under, let me tell you here in a second, revenue detail, V3. V as in Victor, under the revenue tab. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
This is a question I could never seem to get a straight answer on. I mean, if you look back historically, as far back as I can remember, there's never been a year where we didn't have at least a free cash number, free cash deficit, free cash surplus.
There's been one year.
Where?
The year 2016.
Well, that's what, so I'm referring to that.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay.
So do we, and I know you weren't the auditor in 2016, do we have any idea on why? Because I know that number just gets carried forward, whatever the free cash number is, right? So why would that not have been certified?
I mean, I can tell you why it wouldn't get certified, in that there probably wasn't a balance sheet submitted to the Department of Revenue for them to certify it. So free cash is basically, for those who are watching or interested, it's like the result of operations for a fiscal year. So once we close the books on June 30th, there's a calculation of how much revenue we collected over estimated receipts, how many turnbacks we had from our budgets, how much money was in that fund balance when we started the year versus end of the year.
Right.
That number has to be certified by the Department of Revenue. If that wasn't submitted to the Department of Revenue, then they wouldn't certify a number. So that's the reason why I believe.
So it just wouldn't have been sent to the DOR to certify?
Yeah, I mean, maybe the finance director has an answer, but that, I mean.
Because I think that skews, like you and members of, the staff, administration, and rightfully so. Well, everybody likes to talk about the good things that happen, and so you celebrate your successes, and, but there's, and so, you highlight your achievements, but it's just troubled me that there was that one year, of course, would have reflected on the prior administration, whatever those numbers would have been, because as you alluded to, it's what you budget for versus what you spend, and that gives you either your free cash deficit or your free cash surplus. And, you know, so from a historical perspective, as I look back and with a budget that was $50 million less, the city certified $6 million in 2015, and I'm not sure what would have been certified in 2016 had that paperwork been submitted, but whatever it was carried forward into 2017, which I don't know when you came on. Was it 2017, 2018?
I started about a year and a half ago, so.
Okay,
beginning
so-
of 2018.
Okay. So, I mean, it's probably an unfair question for you. You're not prepared to answer it, but,
I mean,
you know, just, it's just a little perplexing looking at the, you know, when you look at it, and I've seen this graphic, I've seen this chart many times in many different places, but it's just troubled me from the perspective of someone that sat through 20 budgets here, probably, presided over 4 of them, to have a year that, you know, there should have been a number there, whatever it is,
Yeah,
you know?
The prior city auditor probably wasn't able to pull it together to submit it to the DOR, is my guess.
Okay, well,
That's
would have been the first time in 20 years, and it was the same auditor we had for virtually all that time, so I'm a little bit surprised by that. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, I just thought I would ask the question.
I would think that the finance director probably has a little more information on that, but yeah. I mean,
Okay. Well, I'm not going to belabor the question. I'm not going to be peppering the finance director with
No, I'm just
with
trying to
that,
answer
you
your
know?
question.
Yeah. No. I'm not looking. I just thought that maybe you had the answer, because I thought typically the auditor was the one who submitted the paperwork to the DOR.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's where I thought the appropriate.
My only guess is that it didn't get submitted, and I mean, you can get negative free cash certified, so even if the
Right.
free cash was negative and it was submitted, you would get a negative number, so.
Well, exactly, and we have had that in years past,
Right.
but certainly, as you look at the trajectory of the numbers where they were going prior, you know, like, you can see, the likelihood of that, at least in my opinion, and I would venture to say probably in, you know, the Director of Finance's opinion, wouldn't have indicated that there was any reason to believe there was a negative free cash balance at that point, so, but we'll never know. So, I just wanted to ask the question, though.
Sure, no problem.
Any other questions
Yeah,
for
Mr.
the
Chairman,
auditor?
Mr. Chairman, so I'm trying to get the timeline here. When would that have had to been submitted in order to be certified
Well,
for that year? So we're talking about year 16, is that correct?
Well, fiscal year 19 number is this year, and that would be from last year's operation. So these are kind of a year in a lag. So 16's free cash would have been a result of 15.
15,
And yeah,
right.
so it's like a year lag. Fiscal years and calendar years kind of get a little complicated, but when we speak of free cash for 19, it was the results of the prior fiscal year.
So it wasn't submitted in 15?
I believe the results of 6/30/15 weren't submitted for 16 certification, is what it looks like.
It's just that it's baffling as to why it wasn't submitted.
I've been baffled for 4 years. I don't know why.
Well, I mean,
it
there's
wasn't
got to be an
submitted
answer
either.
to it. Someone has to have an answer.
Yeah, well, Counselor, if you get the answer, I will be very grateful.
I can
So,
tell you, I'll help you search for it. I don't know that we'll succeed.
in any case, yeah, it just kind of throws the whole graphic and the whole graph off that you have here and all that by that empty block. But anyway, if there's no further questions, I thank you very much for appearing, and we will move on at this point.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome, to information technology, page 37, back to section 2, page 37. Hi, Glenn.
No, it is. Okay. Good afternoon. The IT technology has pretty much been somewhat level funded. The increases that are there are from contract obligations for software, hardware coverage, things of that nature. As far as the accomplishments for the year go, we've been migrating our older servers from 2008, was the last big implementation of technology, to a cloud management program. So we're trying to upgrade them and update them and migrate them all at the same time, so the city doesn't have to be purchasing equipment on a regular basis to keep updated. We've also implemented some cybersecurity programs, trying to address any virus issues, conflicts, things of that nature that come along. So, for any questions you have?
Council Gunasso.
I have a very basic question. On a city email, we have to update almost every month a new password. Can we change that to like every 3 months, or 4 months, or 6 months? Every month is like,
From a securities, no, it's not a good idea.
why is that?
They recommend every 2 months at the max.
2 months is max.
Yes. That's what we're set at currently.
What's that? I'm secure. I'm secure that it's a nuisance every 2. All right, thank you,
It is a
Mr.
nuisance,
Chairman.
but it's necessary.
I have to have a special directory for all my email password changes.
As long as it's not a note on your display, that's fine.
Okay, I have to put a note up. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Any questions for Glenn? Glenn, just looking through here, it looks like there's been a serious increase in support tickets that have been received by you and the ones that have been resolved. And now it's anticipated to go up, looks like pretty dramatically next year. Is there first of all, do you have the staffing level to accommodate that? And is there a reason why the uptick is taking place like
More
that?
and more of the staff of the city are using either mobile devices, handheld devices, primarily mobile devices, and they need some extra help. Every once in a while, it'll be a password issue or something of that nature, getting reconnected to the network, or maybe a Verizon problem or something like that. So we notice a lot more of the technology is causing more problems and more calls. So we're addressing them as we get them.
Okay, and are you comfortable with your staffing level right now?
As good as can be expected at this point.
Well, there was many years you were operating alone up there, I recall.
Right.
So it doesn't look like you're overflowing with help at this point either, but
No.
I
but
think that you did have,
I think in the future, we may have to address it, yes.
yeah. The other thing that I wanted to ask, and of course, it's been several years since I've actually worked, direct with, the city still uses a lot of paper, and I don't know, maybe this is a question for our city solicitor, I'm not sure, but, there's just a ton of paper that comes through this building. First of all, I'm going to go on the assumption that that's still happening. Second of all, I can remember trying to, again, it's 5 or 6 years ago, so I don't know, maybe things have changed, but we brought in Iron Mountain to see about maybe, and I don't know what the legalities are, so again, that's why I think it might be a question for our solicitor or somebody, but, a company like Iron Mountain to be able to scan all of our paper in and then put it in the cloud somewhere and open up space. There's so many, there was, I don't know if there still is, tons of file cabinets with paper and, it's just, it's a real space drain. So, like, what's your take on that? Are there things that are in place now that have eliminated paper over time, or we still have that issue?
There's a document imaging project happening at this point in time that the innovation manager can speak to, but it is being implemented, and there's several test departments currently.
Okay,
So
and will that
being
eliminate,
addressed, and it will cut down on the paperwork.
so it will cut down on our need for storage, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that won't bother Ashley too much either if we can, get that accomplished. So, well, I don't have any questions pertaining to your budget, Glenn. I know you operate as efficiently as possible, so, just want to thank you for the work you do, and if no other councilors have any questions, we can move on.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Next is Office of Innovation and Data Management, page 19. What's that? Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman, councilors, if I may, I'd just like to talk a little bit about my accomplishments for
Sure.
the last year. Obviously, I think the thing you all know the most about my department is the terrific 311 staff. The constituent service reps have done a phenomenal job. They've taken, at this point, over 30,000 calls. 3 people have taken 30,000 calls in a year, which is pretty remarkable. And just last month alone, we had a spike of 4,400 calls, which was pretty surprising. Hopefully that doesn't continue. That was hopefully an anomaly. We also get another 40% of our requests come in online through the mobile app, the Revere 311 app, and through the website. So we also get an additional group, and every one of those is addressed by those same 3 staff as well. And of course, we get thousands of questions. Not every call is a service request. So, for instance, we saw a big jump in the calls in October and November during the trash cart delivery process, where a lot of people were confused about what was going on, and I think we did a pretty good job of helping people out and get through that phase. And I think one of the great things we've been able to do this past year is we were able to extend the hours on Fridays to 3 o'clock or 3:15 without any additional cost to the city. So that, I think, has been really helpful, because our data showed that there were people trying to reach 311 between noon and 3 o'clock on Fridays, so we adjusted our staff hours to be able to accommodate that. I think it's also done a great job just improving the relationship between constituents and the city. I think people feel like they're getting better service, faster timelines on many of our service requests. As an example, in the month of May, we had 147 potholes that were filled by the DPW. 94% of those were filled in under 2 weeks. And of just the requests that were put in by 301 staff, 83% of those were filled in under 2 weeks. And we're not hanging any mission accomplished banners or anything from that, but I think that that's been a really great thing that this department has been working together with the DPW, and I think that we'll be able to continue working on getting those service requests done quicker and quicker. There's also been a really good relationship between the 301 staff and the city staff. So the DPW, comes in and talks with us a lot, water and sewer, ISD, and that relationship, I think, has really been an important part of why we've been able to succeed and make sure that communication and keeping, sometimes we get angry people, as I'm sure you can imagine, and keeping that away from the DPW work and the ISD and trying to really have a positive interaction has really helped, I think, get work done in a more efficient manner. One of the, I think, great things about 301 is it has taken a lot of the politics out of constituent services. It doesn't matter who you know or whose cell phone you have. We're going to take that call. We're going to call the DPW. We're going to put in the work order. We're going to follow up. We're going to make sure those things get done. And I think that's been a real benefit to a lot of residents in the city. And one of the last things I'll mention about the 301 accomplishments of the last year is the rodent control program. We've taken in over 1,000 rodent control waivers this past year, and we have seen a remarkable decline in constituent service requests related to rodent issues as a result of the mayor's initiative and the auditor's initiative to invest funds into that program. Some of the improvements that we're working on for 311 include improving those times to complete service requests. We're working to integrate the 311 software with both the DPW and the inspection service software packages to improve the time for communication. We're beginning the process of thinking about working on a data portal so that everybody can see all the 301 data and take a look at that and understand what's happening on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis, more month-to-month probably. And then I think for those of you who attend community meetings, I think you'll continue to see 311 staff at those meetings being available to show people how to use the app, how to, what the purpose of the 311 office is, and that should continue to improve the relationship with the constituents. Other focuses for my office this past year, I think many of you know that we're about to launch a new website. I'm very excited about that. I think some of you have had a chance to take a look at that. That should launch in the next few weeks. We have launched a new trash and street sweeping app, which over 500 people have already signed up for, which gives alerts to residents about when their trash and recycling days are, including on holiday weeks. It changes those, so that's been really effective. People have been really happy with that. Also gives you the ability to look up many hundreds of items and to understand how to dispose of them, which I know people aren't always sure whether it's curbside recycling or bulky item or whatever. So this, I think, has been really helpful in clearing up that communication. I spent a lot of work with ISD, especially the health department in this last year, launching e-permitting for the health department to go along with the building department, water and sewer, DPW has e-permitting, fire department, so we're really continuing to work along that, and that's going to continue into FY20. As Glenn mentioned on the topic that you brought up, the document management system, we received a $69,000 grant from the state to help us implement document management. We're still in the process of getting that done, and that's been a really exciting process. We've had about a half dozen departments so far have been able to start eliminating their paper files, and there are more to come that will be able to either get rid of the paper files altogether or move them across the street to storage somewhere, so that everything can be in computer system that can be accessed, whether from your computer, from a mobile device, anything like that. So that's been really impactful. As a part of that, we're also going to be, sorry to scoop you to the HR department, but we're going to be launching online job application forms soon, and that's also going to be a part of the document management system as well as licensing. So that's all, I think, exciting stuff that this department has been working on. And then I think the last thing I just want to mention from this past year has been the Next Stop Revere, the master plan website. I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look at that, but there's a lot of fantastic data that we've been able to learn about the city, and that was something that we spent a lot of time working on, and we're going to continue working on that over the course of the summer. Over the next year, some of our priorities are we're going to be launching new software to help us manage our short-term rentals, the Airbnbs, to have an understanding of how many we have and how much taxes we could be collecting, and have a better understanding of that whole information. And as we talk about potential legislation in the future, this may have an impact on that as well. I will be working with the assessing office and have already been working with the assessing office on some of the conversations around a residential tax exemption and how we're going to manage that process electronically. We're going to move food inspections online. There'll be more scanning and online forms. And we're also beginning the process of looking at an inventory management system for the DPW and water and sewer team as well. So those are some of the highlights from my work in the coming year, and I'd certainly be happy to talk with you. I think all of that kind of addressed in one manner or another in my budget for this year, but I'm happy to take questions on that.
Any councilors? Council President Guanasso?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a big user of 311, and I'm so grateful to have the convenience of talking to somebody right away. You know, before in the old, I used to have to call a supervisor and get a hold of them while they're busy. This stops all that process, and it stops it for me, but it also stops it for our residents, and it makes it so much quicker. And, so the problem is addressed right away, and someone's listening to the concerns of whoever makes the inquiry. They're getting someone listen to them. So it's a big deal, and it's a big thing for our city. And I'm a firm believer in 311. It's a blessing. I had a couple issues today, right away. Boom, boom. I got responses right away. You know, I didn't have to wait for someone to get back in the office. It just was so convenient, and you know, it makes government work quicker for our residents, and they're very happy about it, you know.
That's what we're
and I'm happy about it, so keep up the good work, and I got to tell you, you get the staff there is nothing short of great.
They're phenomenal.
Very, very nice. Very, very nice.
We've done a
All
very
of
good
them.
job. We're very lucky with that.
Yeah, we are lucky.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Council McKenna?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that I'm glad you're increasing the Friday times, because I've had problems. You know, people have called me at 12 or 12:30, and I couldn't get in touch with you. So I'm really happy that I'm going to see you guys going until 3 o'clock.
Yeah, we've been going till 3 o'clock for the last, I want to say 3 months, I think.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's going to keep going.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you. And I also share my thoughts and praises to 311, because I've used it, and it helps the ward councilors and the councilors get to the root of the problem really fast than to wait. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Zambudo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to offer my congratulations to you and especially your staff, small staff that does tremendous work, and it certainly exceeds exceeded my expectations of this, and I'm sure my colleagues share the same. It's a marvelous system. It's working great. People are working hard, and just let them know we appreciate it.
Well, hopefully they're listening,
Thank you.
and I'll just name them if you don't mind. Alan Fitzmaurice, Randy Mondestin, and Angelica Cardona Ramirez. They do a fantastic job.
They
So
do,
thank you.
and congratulations to them. Thank you.
Council Morbido.
Thank you. I commend you on the job you're doing, but I'm going to spew some negativity right now. I'm sorry. So I downloaded the Revere Trash app.
Okay.
For the most part, I find it very useful. Memorial Day weekend, I'm in Ward 4, and it showed that there was overflow trash pickup every single day of the week.
Right.
So then I put in a different address. I put in Ward 2, and it showed there was no overflow trash. So what is the process for handling a glitch like that? I was going to call you, but I noticed toward the end of the week it went away. It didn't show the overflow.
Okay, so the process would be I would fix that. So if you see an error, it's possible that there's an error in the software that I just need to update something. And so I wish you had called me so I could take a look at what you were seeing at the time. But yeah, if you see errors anywhere on the products that I'm a part of, please let me know and I can see if I can fix them.
So that information is generated through the data that you enter into your computer?
So the Recollect, the company that we procured the software through, they would have done the original setup, but I think but if there's an error, then that would be something that I would fix later on. So yeah, and if I can't fix it, then I can contact them and they would help me fix it. But if there's it's possible that errors snuck in, and I'm really sorry to hear that. I'd love to go back and see that.
It was logical that there was an overflow trash pickup every day,
But that's an overflow trash week. It should be. So I'll double check that, and thank you for the heads up.
Any other councilors? I just have one question. It actually pertains, maybe, and if you touched on it, my apologies, but if you go to page 25, the adopted FY19 budget versus the request this year is up a little over 100,000, it looks like.
Page.
Yes, can I go through that with you?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So the increases, there are a number of reasons for the increase. So the Citizen Serve has gone up a little bit because we've had more users. They charge on a per user basis. So more and more city staff have been asking for accounts because they use it. So every time we add staff, there's an increase in cost. So that went up about $15,000. Laserfiche is the grant-funded document management system. It was grant-funded for last year, but this coming year we had to put it onto the budget. I'll come back to equipment and software in just a moment. Q-Alert is the 311 software. Aptuitive is the final payment for the website. So we paid 2/3 of the website costs in the FY19 fund. And because we knew the website was going to be finalized just right around June or beginning, we put a little bit of money, the final payment, into the FY20 budget. My Sidewalk is the Next Stop Revere website that we pay an annual fee to maintain that site, and it's not just the Next Stop Revere, but it's all the data that I think is going to be a tremendous benefit for businesses, developers, and future homeowners and existing residents to be able to have a better picture of a lot of the stories about what is happening in Revere, the data stories. STR Helper is the software that we are in the process of purchasing for short-term rentals, especially Airbnbs, which make up about 90% of the short-term rentals in the city. So those are the main costs. The equipment and software, that went up from $15,000 to $25,000 in my budget, actually, but in fact, it's an overall cost savings. Maybe, Rich, if you want to address that?
Sure, we just, over fiscal year 19, we've had some of the finance director's computer operations fund some of the operations in the data management system. So instead of having asked George to use that money, we said that we would just allocate $25,000 into the OIDM budget, and we left George with $25,000. So we just kind of reallocated the funds so that they were more accessible for the needs of the OITM department as opposed to, we try to allocate the monies where they're used, so that was the theory there.
So that's a savings. And then, as Mr. Mara said earlier, they transferred the Collins Center costs from the mayor's office to my office, since I was managing the contract.
Yeah, same idea on that particular one as well. We just moved the money to where it was being used as opposed to where it was budgeted in the past.
Okay. Any other questions by councilors? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And last, Human Resources, page 14.
Afternoon, Mr. Chairman, City Councilors. Thank you. My name is John Virella. I'm the Director of Human Resources, and I'm here to present the Human Resources budget. As you can see, there's very little in the way of change. There's a slight reduction in outside legal services, which is just sort of reflective of the progress that we've made in settling our union contracts, and other than that, there really are no changes in the budget. We could talk about some of the accomplishments that HR has had and some of the things that we'd like to work on. Outside of some of the things listed here, just sort of the day-to-day of hiring probably a little over 50 people this year and managing all the various benefit programs and things like that. A large part of the year was done, again, as I said, all of our union contracts were up. They all needed to be renegotiated this year. We've made very good progress there. We created an employee manual for city employees. We've worked on a lot of standard practices and procedures within the department. So we have procedures for hiring people. We have procedures when people leave. We have procedures when people need to go on a medical leave, and so on and so forth. All those policies are now in place and are being used. We are now doing case management for all of our workers' compensation claims. So just making sure that we actively manage those cases from an administrative and financial perspective. Some of our goals, we would like to take advantage of some of the capabilities within Munis to run human resource programs. Right now that system is in the middle of an upgrade that IT is working on, but once that happens, we want to populate that HR module that in the past hasn't been used. So in the past, the only really HR related data came from payroll, and they put in what they needed for payroll, but not all of the information. So we're hoping that once we have that new Munis system up and running, that we'll be able to populate and use that for various purposes. We got started with training last year. We did some OSHA-related training for some of the folks in DPW. We did a customer service training for all the people, the City Hall people and the parking control officers who are what I would call customer-facing. We want to do more of that next year. One of the things I want to do is get with some of the department heads to talk about progressive discipline. So I get a lot of questions on, when do I engage HR in a problem? When do I work things out on my own? How do we, move from a verbal to a written or whatever the case may be. So just want to try to get ahead of some of those questions that I sometimes get. There's been a lot of talk already about Laserfiche. HR is already using it. We've used the database piece of it to scan a lot of our files. So as the chairman was stating earlier, we have a lot of files with a lot of paperwork in them. So what we've done is we've scanned a lot of that, almost all of it. We're working with the state now to get permission to actually dispose of a large part of it. So because we now have this capability to store information online, we're going back to the state to say, hey, we really need to keep all this paper. And so far what they're telling us is, no, we don't have to. So now we just need to find a way to dispose of it responsibly, right? It's a lot of confidential information on it. You can't just throw it in the trash. So I'm going to work on that and try to make sure that we do that in a way that's safe and expeditious. The next piece of that, and Ruben alluded to it, is the creation of online forms. And so the idea behind that is to not just get rid of paper, but to not produce paper in the first place. So the goal really in taking advantage of Laserfiche is to have somebody who can apply for a job, get an offer letter, fill out all their new hire paperwork, all their benefit paperwork, and not create a single piece of paper. I don't know if we'll get there 100%, but I think we can get rid of a lot of it. I'm really committed to that. I agree with the chairman. I think we just have way too much paper around here, and we're going to do everything we can to reduce the amount of paper that we use and create. And again, I want to do a little bit more around training, especially with our public works employees. Since we are starting to do case management, I'm noticing that a lot of the cases that we get are, slip and fall, somebody not using a tool properly. And so what we're going to try to do is get some training around, the safe way to use tools, ladder safety, things like that. I think a lot of it is attributable to just like safety isn't on people's minds. They just become overly familiar with these tools. And I think they sometimes get a little too comfortable. They're not thinking about, safety. And so we have a number of goals around that. That's about it. I'm glad to take any questions.
Any councilors? Any councilors? I just have one question, just while you're here. And again, it's not often that we get department heads, unless they're specifically requested, to come before the city council. And we've talked a lot about policies, procedures, and what is the policy? Now we went through, we had a couple incidents. We had, well, I'll leave one out for now, but, we had that incident with one employee who, I think you remember, a lot of us found out through social media that he was arrested. And, I know I learned about it, and I think several of my colleagues learned about it on social media. What is your policy? What constitutes or prompts an email to the city council if there's an incident that we should probably know about before the general public? Do you have a policy in place that would address those issues?
I do not have a specific policy for that, for notification of the council. What I would say is... I
think there probably should be one, because I don't mean to speak for every one of my colleagues, but it can be embarrassing if we find out that there's a major incident that takes place within city government that we find out from a resident. It's probably, I know I would like, next year I'm not going to be a member of the city council, so I would think that they would want to know if there was something going on that they should know before anybody else. So I would just say that as a recommendation, again, not pertaining to the budget, but, you're standing here before the city council, so I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, because in the future, I don't think that any one of us wants to be blindsided by something that maybe we should have some firsthand knowledge of before the rest of the world, So,
I understand that. Okay.
Unless any colleagues have any problem with that?
I agree wholeheartedly. There should be some kind of a standard operating procedure of what we do when something like that happens, that a confidential notification goes to the city council, if it's appropriate. And I think most instances, such as the one that was cited as an example, we should know before the public knows, so that we can soften the blow, really. Thank you.
All right, John, thank you very much. If there's no questions pertaining to the actual budget, we appreciate your attendance here, and know we have another meeting with other department heads coming up tomorrow, and then we'll be going through our final deliberations on Monday. So we actually finished up ahead of schedule, so I didn't have to keep you here as late as you might have thought you might have had to be here. So if there's no further business within the subcommittee, I will conclude this meeting, and we will be back here. And I want to first thank the members of the committee for being here. I know these hours have been a little staggered. Today was scheduled for 3 to 5. Tomorrow we've got it scheduled between 6 and 8 p.m. So I want to thank my colleagues that are here participating and working on behalf of the residents to get our FY20 budget completed. So with that, I'll see everybody tomorrow at 6 p.m. Thank you very much.